Okay guys, let's go and do a field strip and service on this. It is a Guerrilla Police KWC manufactured CO2 handgun. Takes 19 BBs, which is going to make sure there is nothing in there. The magazine is out. Um, this model contains the CO2 cartridge in the magazine. And you see there is a rubber band at the bottom of the cartridge of the magazine. Now that is to ensure that uh, the magazine stays in the handgun and doesn't move around, because this specific model seems to have a problem with a wobbly magazine. So little rubber band tied around the bottom keeps it sturdy. Okay, now let's get to the stripping. Firstly, there is a slide release, um, slide lock actually on the left hand side of the handgun, and there is a release button on the right hand side, and there it is just above the trigger guard. Now you won't be able to release, actually press the button in without moving the slide back a little. So you're going to keep the hammer at half cocked and pull the slide back until it puts the hammer in the half cocked position, and then you're going to press the button on the right hand side and move the lock down, and slide comes off just as easy. I'm going to leave the rest of it aside and work with the slide itself. And first we're going to push the guide rod all the way out, making sure the spring doesn't slide, push it all the way out and make it slide into your eye or something. Then we can push the valve forward, and it takes a little bit of an effort to push it forward just to line up the grooves, and then you push from the top, and as easy as that. Once you've got the barrel out, you're going to take the guide rod out very slowly, making sure you have a firm grip on it so it doesn't slip off, and that's all you're going to get out. So that's your stripping of it. Just a little mention of the slide. It is not standard. Actually it is standard, the color isn't. I've basically sanded it down to its raw silver color. Now I haven't gone to the rest of it and haven't completely sanded it down and polished it, but I'm happy with what I have at the moment, because that little bit of black here and there is enough. Now to the tools. A little paintbrush, an old toothbrush, any spray lubricant. I use Q20, which is locally available. Pliers if you want to take the whole thing apart. A Phillips head screwdriver small enough to fit into the barrel of it. Tweezers would be good to take out any left behind tissues or material that you've used to clean up. A flathead screwdriver to take off the hand guards. Yeah, you wouldn't need all of it, but good to have things around instead of looking for it when you need them. Okay, now down to the cleaning. It is all up to you how clean you want it. I prefer mine's completely spotless, so I use a hard bristle toothbrush to make sure I get down to the last bit of dust dirt that's in there. And if you use a clean toothbrush, you will realize how much of black you get onto it from all the color that's coming off it from all the sliding it does, especially if you don't lube it up every now and again. Leaving it behind, especially in your holster on your side all the time, um, would make most of the lube run out and into the holster, and you wouldn't be left with much by the time you come to use the handgun itself. I'm just getting into the grooves and the small parts of it, making sure I don't go too hard on the springs, especially in the firing part of it where it pushes the air out and into the barrel. You have to make sure that when you do these cleanups, um, you are certain of what you're doing and not just blindly following someone's instructions or just doing it all on your own. Also note that the retailer I purchased the handgun from um, does not want me to clean the firearm myself. They prefer or bring it in, but um, I prefer to forego the charges and do it myself. This is avoiding my warranty, of course, so make sure you check with your supplier as to whether they would allow this. This is just the guide rod um, entrance on the slide that I'm cleaning up. I'm not sure if your quality allows you to see the dirt that's coming off from those places, but from what I see, I can tell you that the white tissue paper that I was using is coming out black. I do apologize for the quality. The lighting condition wasn't the best, but this is my first video, and since I did not find a field strip for the model that I have, I decided it would be best if I was to put it up. So please forgive the quality and the lighting. And as you would notice that this is a voiceover and not um, recorded at the time of um, filming. I did come down with a bit of cold, so I have to be doing the voiceover on Sony Vegas Pro 9, which I use, and I will be making up a tutorial on that later on, as I am a qualified software engineer, so this is just a hobby of mine. You would notice on those accessory rails that I did not polish off those the black color in between those grooves. Um, I don't know, I just prefer to like that there. That's my choice. You can completely clean it off if you like it complete gray on your slide. At the moment, I'm just going to clean up all the existing dirt from the parts instead of lubing it up first. I wanted to make sure there was no dirt on it, so that's my preference. Now I'm just going to clean up this spring from the guide rod and make sure that's clean, because any on that would um, get cracked and then you have no blowback action, because once that spring is gone, your slide would pull back and not come forward again. With not enough pressure, it might not come all the way. It might not come back at all. You will notice that I've only worked with the slide so far when it comes to discoloring it. I'm leaving the bell and the guide rod in the original black. Um, it gives it a more sophisticated look instead of having that toy look or a non-real look, because I did compare some of the actual firearms that um, fire live ammunition, and some did catch my eye as just the slide being chrome. So I chose to go with the slide only and leaving the barrel and the guide rod in the original black. Now recently I haven't had much time to um, work with it, so I've just carried it as is, and it is just my preference as self-defense for now. Um, I do plan on applying for my firearm license and obtaining a legal firearm, but with the recent laws being changed, it is become extremely difficult to obtain an actual firearm. So I'm not too sure exactly when that might be, but when I do get my first firearm, be sure to check out my channel. I will be introducing it to all my subscribers. I do realize there is a slight hum in the background. That's just my fish tank's air pump going crazy there. Um, that's one of my other hobbies which I've kind of neglected, but we'll soon be getting back to it. Now, when it comes to the barrel, that seems to be my most important place that I work with, because any uh, dust or dirt in there would cause your aim to go off, probably get a jam in the BBs getting stuck in there, or um, firing at the wrong target, especially if you're using it for self-defense, which is legal in my country. So if you are using it for those purposes, kindly ensure that your barrel is the one thing that you really pay attention to, because any neglect to that and you will probably have your aim going very bad. Now, my model does not have a adjustable sights. It's fixed sights, so I have to get used to um, basically the aim of the firearm, and I do seem to have gotten a hang of it. Um, as I said, I'm new to the CO2 community as well as YouTube community, so please forgive me for referring to it as a firearm or misusing terms, but I do hope I can get more into uh, the CO2 collection, because uh, it's not very easy to obtain live ammunition firearms. So a collection of replicas, CO2 replicas, would be my next best choice, since we have different firearm licenses as a collector or for self-defense or as a protection company. So as a defense weapon, I am only allowed to obtain one firearm. So I don't want to get too much into that because I haven't studied much into it. But back to the stripping, I'm just going to take out the hand um, hand guards, um, just to get all the dust off of there because I don't want any rust getting anywhere. Notice that these screws did come off very easily, and there is a um, pin in there that has come loose, and that's because I had previously opened this part of the the model and seemed to have pushed it out the wrong way and wore out the the locks on the sides. So it seems to have come loose, and I can't seem to get it back together in the way it was. But in the cleaning department, I like to get into the top where the hammer is. I know it doesn't do much, but it's nice to have it clean so it doesn't look like you're neglecting that place, and eventually it makes it look like um, it's a toy, not an actual firearm, because the hammer is actually supposed to do most of the work when it comes to shooting a live round, and having that place dirty while the rest of your gun is shiny makes it look a little more suspicious. Now, when you bring back the hammer, there is a little nub at the top that you have to push down, which is a safety which will not allow the hammer to come forward unless the slide is there to ensure that nub is pressed down. So just make sure when you pull the hammer back without the slide, you press down on the nub um, to allow the hammer to come back, and don't leave the hammer to come back on its own. Always guide it with your thumb or your finger or whatever it is to bring it back forward so that you don't snap on any of the springs or tensioned parts. You don't want to be losing any of those because my resellers have told me that it is very difficult to get spare parts of those items, and especially if you're working in a wide big environment, uh, you don't want to have that problem where you lose the part. Again, I'm getting into grooves of the slide and under the handguards where dust might get into through the magazine entrance, and you don't want to have a problem where your magazine doesn't eject or doesn't go in smooth. Now, just under the hammer, there is a little portion, a little hole there that dust gets into, and then it just makes it look dirty. And especially with the black color, the dust looks very bad. So I like to just get in there and make sure everything is out of there. Probably use um, compressed air or whatever it is to try and get the dust out of there. I just usually blow into the little area and um, get most of the dust out. So I'm not very particular about um, seeing too much from the outside. please guys remember this is my first video, so go easy on me. Don't be too critical of what I'm doing. I am no expert in anything I'm doing. I'm just doing a field strip of a model that I have, which no one has done a cleanup for. So this was self-taught, and if I did miss anything, please comment below. There you go, pressing that knob again to bring the hammer up. So once you press the knob down, you can pull back on the trigger and slowly bring the hammer up. And please make sure you keep the rest of your hand out of the area so you don't pinch your skin or harm yourself in any way. Always nice to be more cautious. Just running a cloth through the trigger guard to make sure all the dust is, all the area is dust free. Because when you do lube the area up and you do have any dust there, you will get clogs in there, and in a self-defense situation, you don't want um, your firearm uh, jamming in any way. And before you screw the handguard back on, just have a look at the screws to make sure it's not rusted in any way. If it is, just give it a quick wipe. Use a little bit of lube and a screwdriver to scrub off any um, rust on it, and maybe even use a rust cleaner or rust remover. Helps a lot when you're carrying it with you. You don't want any rust getting onto your skin, onto your clothes when you do carry the firearm in your holster on your side. Now you realize the left hand side, um, when I unscrewed it, it does seem to be a lot of rust on it. Now before you take the guard off, you need to make sure that you're holding um, the slide lock mechanism in place, and as well as any other loose parts there, because the all of these parts on the left hand side of the firearm are loose and they are tensioned with springs, so you don't want any of them flying off when you do take the guard off. And just hold it in place or tape it up when you're doing the cleanup on this side of the firearm. Using the term firearm very loosely, but this is not a live ammunition firing uh, handgun. It is CO2 powered. It is blowback. Um, Magazine capacity is 19 BBs. It's standard steel BB, and this specific model has a semi-auto function and a full auto function, and there are other uh, videos on YouTube that show you how to modify your M92 uh, replica to a full auto mod if it isn't modded already. For those curious minds that are wondering and don't have a modified M92 replica, um, search for replica. Actually, I'll just put the link in the description below. I'm not sure how, but my plastic guard does have a bit of damage on the side, probably from bumping into walls and things while I do have it in the holster on my side. And just trying to peel off any excess that might be sticking out and damaging my clothes. Just going to put a little bit of lubricant on the handguard to get rid of any rust that has gotten there from the screws. I do carry this on my left hand side, so it doesn't affect me much, but my clothes would be getting dirty from the rust, and I prefer not to have that, so I'm just gonna get rid of that rust from the side. And the lubricant I'm using does give it a bit of a shine as well, so all the better if I do have a little bit of lube spread around there before I clean it off, so it gives it a bit of a shine and also keeps it dust free, so that lube does help to get rid of dust on a day-to-day basis instead of having to clean it up every day. I do these strips maybe once every 3 months or once every 2 months. Um, that's just me. I just prefer to have it uh, clean. I don't use it too often in a defensive situation, but I do take it out every now and again in my backyard and just fire for a few rounds just to make sure everything is working as it's supposed to. As you put it back on, just make sure you have a hand over the loose parts so nothing tension flies off while you are trying to get the guard back on. Just getting a rough lube on the screws to get rid of the rust from there. Just gonna clean that off so that rust doesn't spread anymore, and the lubricant does protect it from getting further rust. If you live near the ocean like I do, rust is inevitable, but if you look after it properly, you can get rid of the rust, actually prevent it from getting rusting too quickly. to scrape up the rust that is in the grooves in between uh, on the screw, so you don't have to worry about that rust spreading. And just lube up the grooves where the slide is running, and better to have more lube than less. Um, I don't mind a little bit of lube getting behind the handguards and into the working mechanisms, as it does help to make it a lot more smoother. And as I said, this lubricant is rust proof also, so it helps to um, prevent rust in places where you can't really get into. So I'm being very generous with the amount of lube I use. Also helps to use the nozzle you get with the lubricant with the aerosol can, and it helps to uh, push off any rust with the pressure. Sorry, the dust. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Don't clean off any excess lube from the uh, rest of the mechanism just as yet. Let it soak in and let it settle while you work on the rest of the parts. As I said, the barrel is my most important part I pay attention to, so I make sure I work on this thing as much as I can. I'm sure with the lack of light and the shadows, you might have noticed that it is late at night, so I'm not spending too much time on on it. and I'm making sure everything is lubricated. This is where the Phillips screwdriver will help you to push the material through. So use that, and the tweezers will help you to pull out the material on the other side once you push it through. Once the dust is out, you can start lubing up the barrel. Also, when you're cleaning up the lube, um, don't be too harsh. A little bit of lube left behind does give it a shine, and also will help to keep everything running smoothly, because your barrel does slide through the slide itself when fire in a blowback handgun. slide is the easiest once you've got it cleaned. Just spray the lube in the grooves for it to slide without having an issue. Spread the lube around through the entire groove of the slide. And especially with the slide, just leave a little bit of lube behind, just enough to feel wet to the touch, not so much that it runs all over your handgun when you do use it, or when you do carry it with you, or when you practice in your backyard or at a range. Now, since it is just past midnight, I will be leaving this to, once I have finished, leave it to soak up most of the lube and see if anything leaks out by morning, and then just wipe that off. But if you are in a hurry, you can, once put together, wipe off and just give it a shake to see if anything just spills out. Now this is the part that fires the BB out the barrel, so you might want to get some lube in there so it doesn't jam when the gas is pressuring the mechanism in. Just trying to wipe off all the lube that's on the slide that doesn't need to be there, especially on the outside and on the inside where the slide touches basically nothing. excuse me. In all of this, the guide rod and the spring on it seem to be the easiest to clean and lube up, and you don't need to spend too much time on these two, because relatively they are the smallest parts in uh, the four items that you are cleaning. I'm just going to lube up the cloth that I have and just wipe off the guide rod and the spring with it, instead of directly spraying it onto the guide rod and the spring and then trying to wipe that off. Running the spring through the lube to make sure it's lubed up properly and it is clean. Just put everything back in place, and we start with the guide rod to make sure the spring is fully in tension, and then slide the guide rod in place into the slide, making sure that you have a firm grip on the guide rod so it doesn't slip out of your hand and hit you or anything else in your surrounding. Once you have that in, have a firm grip on it and put the barrel in, making sure that when you do push the barrel in, um, that it is lined up before you start forcing it down into the slide. As you can notice, it has 4 clips on it, and the slide has 2, and the 2 clips on the slide will go between the 4 clips on the barrel itself. Now, the whole time that you are putting the barrel in, make sure you have a firm grip on the guide rod, and once you have the barrel in, you can slowly push back on the guide rod to let it sit onto those clips on the barrel. Now it has the guide rod has a little cutout at the bottom, and that will sit against the barrel. And once you have all of that in, all it is to put the slide back onto the rest of the mechanism and you are done. I'm having a bit of trouble because the guide rod has slipped off the barrel, and all that takes is to pull back the slide and push the guide rod up with your thumb as you put the slide back on, and the slide should go all the way back to the hammer. Once you have the slide back in, all you do is push the lock back in place and your slide is done, and there you have it, all done. And whatever excess lube that you do have leaking off the slide and the rest of your mechanism, is just wipe it off and um, maybe just spray a little more lube on the rest of it once you've put together, and just wipe off the lube, and that gives it the shine that you